I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, September the 29th, brought to you in part by Y-Tex Tags. The report was mostly forgotten by the end of the day on Monday, and the report I'm talking about is the cattle on feed report that came out last Friday. If you remember on our last visit, I talked about how your placement figure was fairly bearish, about 3 percentage points bearish, heavier placements and during August. But in the whole scheme of things, it really didn't change what your analyst had guessed the total inventory was going to be. And we'd also thought that everybody was expecting the report to be bearish, and your board was down on Friday, and I think that had a lot to do with it. They'd kind of figured a lot of that in. So I wasn't expecting it to be a big market mover. Well, as soon as the board opened, it started out lower, and we thought, but it soon turned back around and finished quite a bit stronger. So we're not going to worry too much more about that cattle on feed report, although there are several curious things in there, and I don't know if anybody really has the answer, but I want to visit about them a little bit. They're kind of stumping me a little bit. It did show that the number of cattle that's been on feed over 150 days, we used to say cattle would go on feed 120 days, especially in the southern plains, but 150 days is more like it now. And we were making cattle bigger than we used to, of course, but the number of cattle on feed over 150 days was up more than 20% compared to a year ago. That's pretty bearish factor right there, and it makes you think, gosh dang, we got a lot of those cattle to move, and we got heavier carcasses, and so that kind of goes hand in hand with the heavier carcasses. But then you look back and you think, well, what was 150 days ago? Well, that was during the worst of the COVID, when people weren't placing many cattle because we had plenty of forage out, and folks were just pretty much leaving their cattle turned out. They weren't selling them. They were scared to sell them because there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, so they weren't bringing their cattle in to sell, weren't selling them direct as much either, and our placement figures were way down. If you look back to our March and April placements were way down compared to the year previous. So we just knew whenever we got into this late fall part of the year that we would have a hole in our market ready cattle. And I think folks are still looking forward to that. So what's up with all these cattle that's been on feed over 150 days? Did they go on feed as little peewees or what? It's kind of curious, and it doesn't really make sense to me. I don't care what they say. I think that we're going to run over the next 30 to 45 days into a place where we're a little bit lighter on our market ready cattle. And it's going to be an opportunity for these cattle feeders to make up some ground, hopefully make up some market position. And a lot of your big dog market analysts think it's pretty bullish between here through the big part of the fall that we can make up some ground in market position. That would be great. The guys have already got a start on it. They've gained about $5 in the last 2 weeks here, and they're starting to relearn how to dig in and not sell on a Monday or a Tuesday and wait till later in the week and see how aggressive those packers get. And they're trimming down the packers' margin a little bit. So I think we've got some room to make up some ground there. They also need to make up some ground getting rid of these heavy cattle. So we don't hear that the guys are in bad shape. We're not talking about any cattle weighing a ton or over 1,800 pounds, but we still know that our average dressed carcass steer carcass is 29 pounds heavier than a year ago. So we've got heavy cattle out there. We need to get through them. So maybe we'll have an opportunity to kind of get caught up on that and then have some brighter things to look forward to. Tell you what, it's so dry around, but it's perfect weather for harvest, and corn harvest is going right along. We just barely got started, and they're already 15% done, according to the crop progress report. That's 7 percentage points more than last week, and 5 percentage points ahead of last year. So moving right along here, and I tell you what, we'll be done with that before too long and get some of these farmer feeders back into the market. But I know some of you guys, and I don't pay too much attention, especially to the same guys that put the negative comments on these reports. day after day after day, and I don't even know why they listen to them. If they don't like them, they don't have anything positive to say, just don't click on them, guys. It's the price is right. I realize that, but my gosh, why would you want to click on something that upsets you and makes you want to make an ass of yourself on social media and things like that? But had several people that were butthurt over the last few reports there because of me saying that October is a horrible time to sell calves. Duh. From the time I was big enough to tell a steer from a heifer, I knew that there's a week or two for sure, at least in October, that supply is going to far outweigh demand, because we got too many people spring calving all at once, and then they've got these calves, they're wanting to wean them, they don't really want to do the work, so they're wanting to get shed of them, they're wanting to get them, those calves off of their cows, and get their cows moved and things like that, and they're wanting to preg check and this and that and the other thing, so they're bringing all their calves all at once, balling calves to the market. A lot of them don't have any shots or anything. They're bringing their kill cows and weigh-ups into the market too, and the market's been really good on those. The price has been really good, but we're seeing a lot heavier supplies start to come to town. But all these calves hitting the market all at once is just bound to hurt things. And right here, when we got these wide swings in the temperatures, it's dusty, it's dry, the flies are really sticky, and they're spreading stuff, eye problems, lung problems, this, that, and the other thing. I tell you what, it's just a fact of life. And if you got a place to hold those cattle, and I realize most of us are very dry, and you don't have a place to hold those cattle, and if you try to shut them up and pour feed to them, and they're freshly weaned, they're going to get sick. Well, they're going to get sick on the next guy too, people, and they don't like it either. And the guys that are in this business, these backgrounders, they haven't had very good luck the last 3 or 4 rounds or last 3 or 4 years of backgrounding cattle, and they haven't made much money. And they can't get too excited about something that they know is going to be hard to straighten up. I want to be a cheerleader for the market all the time, but I've got to look at this thing objective, or I'm really not any good for you. It's like cheering on an inanimate object. If it doesn't make any difference, what good does it do? And you think, well, don't tell these guys that these calves are hard to straighten up this time of year. People know this stuff, guys. The ones that are out there doing it, they know it. I'm not tipping anybody off about stuff. So, enough with don't be telling people, that you're going to make the market go down. I'm not that powerful. If I was, I would invest in the ways that I'm telling you the market is, and make a whole lot more money than what I'm making. But let's talk about the board. On Monday, October live cattle futures up 37 cents, 107.95. December ended up a quarter, so those were good because they were down early. Up a quarter, 111.65. You're going out from there. Not a lot of volatility out in the out fronts, from down 45 cents to up 60. So pretty good day following a bearish cattle and feed report. October feeder cattle up 60 cents, 140.92. November was up 95 cents at 140.110. Going out from there and pretty consistent there, down 25 cents to up 32, so not too much. Weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle trade in your 5-area feeding region. I told you we'd get over 100,000. It was 103,200 head, which we feel good about that movement. If we could move over 100,000 negotiated every week, we'd be kind of okay with that. We'd like to have a lot more, but at least it's decent. That compares to 89,800 last week and just 73,800 same week a year ago. Your live steers and heifers through the week last week sold from 102 to 107, but mostly 105. Weighted average on live steers was 105.05. That was up $1.51 compared to the weighted average on live steers previous week. But overall, in your regular trend is about $2 higher on prices, but your weighted average vary a little bit depending on where the bulk sold. But dressed steers and heifers ranged in price from 163 to 167 and a quarter, but mostly all 165. Your weighted average on dressed steers was 164.89. That was up $1.64 from the weighted average from the previous week. Nationwide cash sales, negotiated cash sales were 124,800 head. Formula sales 270,000 head. So all of those are, most of them be based off of your cash market from the previous week, but that's the variance there. Of your cash sales, about 26.5% of them were for the 2 to 4 week or 15 to 30 day delivery period. And a lot of times I say your packers try to step that up because they want to take advantage. If they think we're going into a down market, then they can pull those cattle that they already have purchased, and then they can back up even more. I think at this time, though, this past week, I think they were buying more cattle out front because they think the market's going to be a little bit higher. And so they wanted to get some more cattle secured at this week's prices. So I may be wrong, but that's just kind of what I think on that. The negotiated grid that some of your people think is going to save the world, only 21,600 head, so really not significant in the whole scheme of things, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better. Let's talk about what else is going on. I want to give you guys a heads up. If you're looking for some replacement quality heifers, especially for some of you people that just want to get into the cattle business, and you want to get something that's kind of proven that you won't have too much trouble with, and you can get right along, is from the Little Timber Farms in Black Duck, Minnesota. They feature Black Baldy replacement heifers out of proven genetics, out of Top Herefords and Ellingson Angus there. And I tell you what, nothing better than a good Black Baldy mama there. Plus, they've got different coloring in their face. They've got a little more personality for you people that's got little smaller herds, and you're not necessarily make pets out of them, but you want to get to know your cows a little better. I always say Black Baldies are a good way to go, but check out Little Timber Farms there. What else is going on besides that? I'm going to be going on some trips here over the next couple, 3 weeks, actually several of them, but this Thursday going to be up doing some auctioneering with some good auctioneer buddies of mine up in Coffeyville, Kansas at Brian Little's sale there. And that's the North Barn there in Coffeyville, and he's got a special on Thursday. He's got his customer appreciation day. He's got a good lineup of cattle, and he's got a bunch of his buddies coming up there to help him sell them. So looking forward to that. Jay Romine's going to be there. Chuck Bradley's going to be there. Blaine Lotz is going to be there, like all those guys. So looking forward to going up there, and just kind of humbled to get to go up and be there with them because I'm not a professional auctioneer by trade, but I do enjoy doing it. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DV Auction late in the day on Monday, sitting at 141.24, up 37 cents compared to the end of last week. Look at your big high volume sales. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma National Stockyards, 5,700 head there. Feeder steers $2 to $3 higher. Feeder heifers steady to $1 lower, but a pretty good market on your bigger feeders with weights going right into the feedlot. Not a very good test of calves, but a lower undertone on the calves that were on hand. Joplin Regional Stockyards, and I want to give them a shout out. Something they try to do to help some of their smaller producers and help the buyers of those smaller groups of cattle. They feature commingling for their Monday regular feeder sales. Now you got to have those cattle in there by 5 o'clock Sunday evening, but if you're a small producer or you got some odd weights and sizes of calves, your home raised calves, bring them in there to Joplin and put them in the commingle deal. They'll sort those cattle into big groups, larger groups that are more attractive to buyers with other folks' cattle. They'll give you a fair shrink factor there, and then they'll figure what percentage of the whole lot the weight is that belongs to you, and then they'll sell those cattle on the weights that they weigh when they come through the ring the next day. And they also give those cattle a one-shot vaccine that the buyers really like, and they actually charge that to the buyers, and they're more than tickled to pay it. So if that doesn't tell you how important the shots are, when they run those cattle through the chutes to kind of get a size factor on them, get a weight on them, and sort them into the like groups, they give them that one shot, charge it to the buyer, and the buyers are tickled to pay for it. So that shows you right there how important it is. But then they feature those commingled cattle about 11 o'clock on Monday morning, which is high time, and the buyers get right in there and bid on those commingled cattle in the bigger bunches. There's been several studies, and it always shows the same thing. The one factor that makes the biggest difference in price in a commercial feeder cattle auction is lot size. So you want to sell those cattle, you don't want to sort them to death, and if you have an opportunity to put them with like cattle, you want to do that to help the buyers out, because those buyers are lazy, and their whole life revolves around 48,000 pounds, and the more you can do to help fix that for them, the more generous they're going to be with their bids. So that's a good idea. But Joplin Regional Stockyards are started their commingled sales here because it's getting into the fall, and it helps those smaller producers. Joplin 6,100 head on Monday. Feeders were steady, and the sale was kind of split between feeder weight cattle, which a lot of those would be big backgrounded calves, and a few yearlings too. But it was kind of split between feeders and calves. But your feeders were steady. Calves $3 to $7 lower, and I don't think it's because of my last couple of reports telling people that it's that time of year. They know it. Okay, Russell Livestock, Russell, Iowa, 2,400 head there. They had a pretty good sale there. Compared to 2 weeks ago, their market was just a little bit uneven, but I got some top quotes to give you out of several places there. How about Oklahoma City? I don't often give a top quote out of there, but they can sell them high too. National Livestock, Oklahoma National Stockyards, 62 head, 828 pound steers, bring 145.50. And I tell you what, that's a sale barn that sticks really tight to big corporate orders there. But I tell you what, when they get the kind of cattle in there, they can sell them. We thank National Livestock for sharing their real-time quotes with us. They're really the only commission firm there in Oklahoma City that does it. But we want to give them a shout out, National Livestock. Faith Livestock Commission, Faith, South Dakota, 68 head, 857 pound steers there, bring $147. Joplin Regional Stockyard sold 60 head, 755 pound feeder steers, $152.50. That's a pretty darn good quote there from a high volume sale. But the best quote that I saw anywhere come out of Russell Livestock Market, Russell, Iowa, 50 head, 719 pound big steer calves, $156.25. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.